All right, good evening, folks. Welcome to Monday Night Law, June 19th. Juneteenth. Oh boy. 2023. Should be getting some audio out there on Telegram, right? We just checked that. Okay, good. More more technical difficulties. Jammed up on Telegram this time, and Facebook still does not want to connect. So, thank you, Jax, for the Happy Father's Day there. Let's go to live chat. There we go. So, yeah, that's the primary thing we'll be talking about tonight is the military stuff. But I want to go back to right after Trump's arrest. He came out live. I shared the video, the Rumble video, and I'm going to play through this and kind of break this down and read between the lines. I get that a lot of people really don't know what's going on and can't even decipher what's being said by Trump and the Trump administration and that kind of stuff. So, first thing I want to mention, when I was in the Marine Corps, 4th Marine Tanker Division, right out here, Gowan Field, middle of June, is usually the reserves 2 weeks out of the year training. So that may also be something that we're seeing, and everybody's awareness is heightened right now, given the things that are going on. But I don't want to get people's hopes up that, oh my gosh, the military's on the move. Think about it, folks. They're not going to be using huge frickin' tanks and, the howitzers, the 105s. I mean, come on. To go in and arrest bad actors. That's not the kind of heavy equipment they're going to be using. And they're not actually on the highway. There's a dirt road off to the side, just like for us out here. We literally did drive the tanks out to the desert. And yeah, we did have to cross the road, but there's a dirt track road, literally, to the side of the highway, to the paved road. People realize how heavy tanks really are, and you try to run them on asphalt, it will just tear up the asphalt. So no, they're not running on the asphalt. They're not on the highways. Concrete, sure. The shop out back and all that stuff, the pad, the main area there, was all concrete, sure. So that may be part of what's going on, is just for the reserves is 2 weeks out of the year training. That's this time of year. Every year. So, I know there's a lot of hype about it. Now there may be something to some of this, but I'm not going to say that all of it has to do with what's in the plan. And if for those of you that watched Monday Night Law from 2 weeks ago, I warned you. And those that have been on the National Assembly call, Destry put this out about 5-6 weeks ago now, that it was pretty much go time, that the military is going to come in and declare martial law and be under, military control, take down the de facto government. And I reiterated again 2 weeks ago that this is what's coming. But I don't think it's going to look like what we're thinking with all the tanks and heavy equipment rolling into town. And that's not. I mean, what are they going to do with the heavy equipment? It's not that kind of a war, folks. We're not going to be blowing up buildings and and that kind of stuff. And another point here to make is the fact that there's been a lot of stuff going on since 2016, 2015, 2016, and then when Trump got into office in 2017. I'll reiterate what Derek Johnson's talked about, which, again, I will admit that I missed those initial, the beginning part of 2017, the continuity of government stuff that he has so eloquently shared for us. Now it makes a little more sense to me what's really going on, even though I was covering the executive orders, proclamations, and that kind of stuff around October of 2017. I was laying this stuff out back then when it was coming out. And what I was telling people then, this military operation, this is going to be a worldwide takedown. When he came out with the executive order 13818, blocking the property of those involved in serious human rights abuse and corruption, worldwide, December 20th, December 17th, 2017. Okay? I've been saying this since then. World war. This is a war. They're taking down the corruption worldwide. Once he put that executive order out, I knew game was on. Okay? I've been trying to expose this and tell the truth about what's really going on. I even showed parts about how we're going to be going back to the common law. And this is one of the questions I keep posing to some of the law gurus out there that study the code. What are you going to cite as law when the code goes away? Because that's all bylaws of the corporation, which has been bankrupt, involuntarily bankrupt by Trump in June of 2020. Done, dissolved, gone, bye. That's that United States Inc., the corporation that's been acting as government since the Reconstruction Acts of 1871. The District of Columbia, part of the Tri-City State, London, Vatican, and D.C., District of Columbia. Absolutely. The Executive Order 13818 is the big one. That's the one that affects worldwide government regimes, because that's C-Vine News. I shared that video, and she was talking about it. And she was laying out a timeline, and this kind of revolves around 9/11. See, the backstory on 9/11 we have to comprehend and understand about 9/11 is Jassar and Nassar was supposed to go into effect. And throughout history, for those that haven't studied history like I have, they've always caused some sort of a war. And what did they come out with? The Patriot Act and the War on Terrorism. Declared some sort of war, although they've been declaring some sort of kind of war every 2 years because the Constitution dictates they're not supposed to support war for longer than 2 years. So every 2 years, for a very long time, they've been redeclaring some sort of state of emergency. That state of emergency is some sort of enemy attack. Now, like COVID-19, that's not even really falls under any kind of an enemy attack, but they just make stuff up as they go along. Whatever works for them, right? Right. Well, we have to understand the totality of 9/11, right? Because it was a full forensic audit, financial audit, because it was time to settle the debt. The bankruptcy came to an end in 1999. Some of you may be familiar with Russell J. Gould, okay? And in part what he did there. Now, I know a lot of people ask me about Russell J. Gould, and I think there's some stuff that's not right there. But I do thank the man for what he did do. In essence, in the very, very beginning there, what needed to be done was to intervene and to claim the flag, claim the nation. Okay? But that's all the further I will go in support of Russell J. Gould at this particular point in time. So, just the fact that NESARA, GESARA, all that stuff it was signed into law, supposedly, by Mr. Clinton. Bill Clinton signed that in, and it was supposed to come into an effect. Right? So, that's what 9/11 was really about, is stopping the GESARA, NESARA coming into effect and basically settling the debt. Well, somebody had their grubby fingers, grubby hands in the cookie jar. And, of course, a lot of money laundering, right? So, with those kinds of things going on, people didn't want to get busted because it was time to balance the books and set the books straight. So, we're long overdue, and I've been hearing this stuff exponentially since essentially 2012. Oh yeah, it's happening, it's coming, it's happening, it's happening. This is 2023. We're talking 11 years later. It's coming. I don't know. I get what it's all about and the reason why, based on the Cestui Trust Act of 1666. Okay, some of this stuff's been around since then. Okay, that was part of the original plan there in 1666. So, there's definitely some stuff going on, military operation wise, worldwide, and part of that, what CVI News was explaining there in the video that I did share, was the 9/11 trials and that kind of stuff, and they went over and basically arrested the entire government, the higher ups of the government in Saudi Arabia. And yes, that executive order 13818 has been extended until December of 2023. So that's because that state of emergency hasn't been resolved yet. Okay, that's what it. Again, we need to comprehend what an executive order is. It's an order by the commander-in-chief, military order. You're welcome out there, Veritas 1776 on Rumble. Saw your comment there. This hasn't been resolved yet. Going back to the 9/11 stuff, okay? When this all started right there, that was in part what this executive order was about, was to go in and arrest the regimes, the de facto government. And this is how Trump ended up doing treaties of peace. After they've gone in, taken down the corrupt regime, and allowing, I hate to say it this way, but this is the way it is most of the world, is a democracy. And the people were allowed to re-elect new people. Change of the guard, Declaration of Independence. Let's see. That's how that works. Law of nations. Real law. War. Okay, we are at war. How else would Trump be doing treaties of peace with other nation states after they've gone in and taken down the regime? And to see, this is essentially what's going to happen here in America. They've been taking care of the rest of the world first, because that's, all these strings are attached, right? Puppet masters. You got the 12 families, the 300. Okay, just to name name a few. World Economic Forum, the UN. Now here's a little tidbit. I put it out there before. I discovered through Avalon that the UN was actually created out of California. It's on Avalon. I'm like, holy crap. Because reading means reading, and I just randomly read stuff sometimes. trying to educate myself, doing research, that kind of good stuff. So these are the things that have been in the works since Trump took office. This is a military operation, has been. They were going to do a coup on Obama. Okay, because if you've ever even come across and read Agenda 21, that pretty much the next step was literally to come door to door and take the guns to disarm the American people, kill all the men. And again, you have to read between the lines on this from Agenda 21, because it was to come in and take the arms. And then the next section was, because of the previous section, they basically have to set up FEMA camps for the women and children that are left. Okay, what does that mean? Why not men, women, and children? And then, what do you mean that are left? Okay, so that means they're eliminating the men and some of the women, maybe even some children that are left, because that was going to be using force and violence. And the plan was to basically get rid of anybody, any kind of a patriot. Hello, the Patriot Act. That was part of Agenda 21. And I see so many people out there that are still stuck on all of that have not paid attention to what's going on now, currently, which was the reason why this is happening. Because that was the next step, and they had to do something. And what I mean by they is the good guys. We call them white hats. The good guys versus the bad guys. The white hats versus the black hats. This is literally a spiritual battle. Good versus evil here, folks. Break it down to simplicity. At the very root of all of this is good versus evil. And it's time. It's time for the good to stand up and take down the evil, to shut it down. So, yeah, it was much bigger than just the WHO. Over here on Telegram, Eagle Freedom, much bigger than just the World Health Organization. Read Agenda 21 again. Yeah, their agenda was a part of the depopulation, but they want to be able to do this to bring in their regime, one world government, new world order, and basically, as if we weren't already slaves, but it would be worldwide slavery, and they would, to take out healthy men that would stand up against this, and any women that would stand up, or even children that would stand up. That was the point of that part of Agenda 21, was to come in and take the guns, take the arms, and then set up the FEMA camps for the women and children that are left. They wanted full control over everything. And they were very, 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 very close to having this happen. But thank God there was enough people, enough men, and possibly women behind this. And again, this is part of that Q stuff. I know that a lot of people get off on the Q stuff, but Q, again, is a military clearance and was originally started in 1963 by Kennedy. That was part of the plan. That's that plan that sometimes is referred to by the white hats out there since 1963. And they murdered him. They assassinated him, which is also why Bush Sr. was executed. Same thing with John McCain. We got to see essentially that right directly in our face. Okay, we didn't actually see them get euthanized, is basically what they got, right? So, knowing this may be new to you. I actually recently learned of that here, maybe within the last year or so. It's like, oh, okay. Because, see, again, I'll reiterate this again. I didn't follow the Q stuff. Okay, I followed Trump, his executive orders, proclamations, memorandums, and paid attention to what he was saying live out there to us. Just reading between the lines. But when I watched his campaign trail, I knew something was up, because this man knew. And again, based on the research and historical stuff that I had researched prior to all that stuff, I picked up on what Trump was saying because of that knowledge, because of the research that I had previously done. I knew what he was talking about. I'm like, holy crap, he knows about this, he knows about that. Oh, now he's talking about the pedophilia ring stuff, and I'm like, holy crap, this guy's serious. And again, I'll reiterate, I didn't particularly care for Trump prior to all of that. And maybe because he's a shrewd businessman. Kind of what we need out there anyways. But the whole "you're fired" thing, I love it. Because that's essentially what's happening and what's about to come. Now, I want to remind people that a lot of indictments have been becoming unsealed, and arrests have been made here in America since October of 2021. This has already been happening here in America. And again, we look at this last midterm election cycle, which I dubbed it as a change of the guard. For example, in Idaho, we had a 51% changeover in the Idaho legislature. That means over half of the people that were in there are no longer there. Where'd they go and why? That's a record for Idaho. Things that make you go, why did that happen? Why? I'm telling you, folks, people are getting arrested. Okay, same thing with like certain people out there, even Mike Pompeo. Okay, can you not tell that that's not really him? The guy that's got a mask on that makes it kind of look like him, but that's not him. Same thing with the guy posing as Biden, or the 3 or 4 different people that are posing. There's CGI, there's people wearing masks, actors, I get that people are busy with their own personal lives and not paying attention. But we've got quite a few people who are. And I wish people would... right? Diesel D's. Pompeo looks like he's on Golo. I just saw some of that yesterday, and I was like, boy, he's looking awful thin. Lost a lot of weight there. It's not him. Okay? There's a lot of actors been put in place. This is the show, right? Get your popcorn, watch the show. Because there's a lot to do. A lot to take down, a lot of corruption to deal with. And it's really deep. It's a deep state of being, of corruption. And like Trump came out and said, look, this is much bigger than we thought. Yeah. It's a lot bigger than they thought. Okay? And they were already digging into this stuff and being prepared to take down corrupt regimes and all this kind of stuff. Much, much bigger than they thought. This stuff isn't going to happen overnight. But look where we're at now. We're, 7 years? Okay? 7 years down the road. coming up on 8 years. And dealing with the amount of corruption worldwide. Read Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. Okay, you got to take over the medical, you got to take over the banking, you got to take over the schools, it's all listed out in there to take it down from within. So to undo all of that, I mean, think of how long it took to get to that point. How long is it going to take it down? Especially when you're dealing with a corrupt military, that NATO, the military-industrial complex, which again is the Tri-City state, London, Vatican, and D.C. They've been using the American people as the world police military, and then using like FBI, right, under the Patriot Act. Anybody who's considered a patriot who wants our republic back, well, that's an attempt to overthrow the government, is how they twist that. But it's not a government, it's a corporation. And then it's just all de facto, it's not legitimate. It's basically the same thing what they did in Ukraine in the early 90s. Went in and wiped out the regime and just took it over. Been, willy-nilly over there since the early 90s. Now, that's, again, the key, the hub for pretty much everything worldwide. Ukraine is a worldwide hub. Again, for basically slavery, human trafficking, men, women, and children for whatever purposes that they ever decide. Money laundering, arms deals, drugs, biolabs. Okay? So this was probably something they just figured out about the biolabs. But again, the war in Ukraine is much bigger than most people think or even aware of. And in my mind, being that that's been dubbed as the world hub, if the world hub is being taken down, that's the key. That's the cog for everything, the center of everything. So this is it's getting to the point where it is coming here for us in America. And again, make no mistake, it's going to happen. The military is going to come in, they're going to declare martial law, and they're going to take down the corrupt government. And we'll be under martial law until we reassemble government de jure. Which is why I'm trying to get people to come over there to the national-assembly.net. Get on the call there, the first part of the call on Thursday nights. Go look at the website there. And, in fact, I can just pull that up right now. I'll show you how to get there. Okay. I better share sound just in case. All right, so here's the national-assembly.net homepage. Okay, right here, conference call info. You got your forums and blog. You got your resources here. Destry is the one who runs this website here. Current situation. Where are we the people? There's some public notices that have already been done. Assembly supporting videos. Okay. 10 steps to an assembly. Definitely stuff to look at here. I don't know if he's gotten... He hasn't gotten my Idaho one on here yet. And then Jason with his hardline He's got him a little tab on here for his podcasts. And I had Jason on here with me one time. Great show. Love what he's doing over there. But right here, this is to get connected. Every Thursday evening, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Okay? And the first part of the call is for the Assembly business, which is the National Assembly education, kind of like Kirk's Law Corner LLC is for education, news, and other services. Okay? It's like a business meeting. And then once the business portion is ended, then it goes into the second part for mostly education and Q&A and that kind of stuff. This is where you would want to say, "Hey, I'm from Idaho. Who's the coordinator?" Well, I'm the coordinator for Idaho, so they would send you over to me and make a connection with me. Okay, but there's coordinators for most of the states. There's some that are missing. So we're looking for people to stand up, right? To do this, because this isn't going to fix itself. If all political power is inherent in the people, we need the people to be properly assembled. Government de jure, legitimate government. Or we're going to be stuck like this until the people reassemble. If we don't reassemble, we get what we get. All political power is inherent in the people. If the people don't assemble, we can't claim and exercise that power. Just saying. Logic and reason here, common sense. Should be. But I know there's a lot of people that don't even know about this. And some of the things that we've had, or I should say, these folks here have had to deal with, because they were really close to having the requisite 34 states needed to be properly assembled. And then that Anna von Reitz deep stater came in with her blood oath bond to the Vatican and the Pope. And I've exposed that. I have those documents, and I think they're on here somewhere. They used to be. Probably in the forums and blogs. Might even be under the resources. Anyway, I don't want to get off on a tangent on that. I want to get to Trump's speech. So, without further ado, that's the National Assembly. National-assembly.net. Okay? So, here we have Trump's speech. I've got it all queued up here. So I'm going to narrate this as Trump says certain things, and hopefully the audio is coming through for everybody.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's a great honor to have you here. And today we witness the most evil and heinous abuse of power in the history of our country. Very sad thing to watch. A corrupt sitting president had his top political opponent arrested on fake and fabricated charges of which he and numerous other presidents would be guilty, right in the middle of a presidential election in which he is losing very badly. This is called election interference, and yet another attempt to rig and steal a presidential election. More importantly, it's a political persecution like something straight out of a fascist.
Now, notice that he mentioned that, this is election interference. Well, Executive Order 13848 is for foreign interference in a federal election. Just saying, that executive order is still valid.
Or communist nation. This day will go down in infamy, and Joe Biden will forever be remembered as not only the most corrupt president in the history of our country, but perhaps even more importantly, the president who, together with a band of his closest thugs, misfits, and Marxists, tried to destroy American democracy. But they will fail, and we will win bigger and better than ever before.
We will win bigger and better than ever before. Mark his words.
Charging a former president of the United States under the Espionage Act of 1917 wasn't meant for this. An act for a crime so heinous that only the death penalty would do, and threatening me.
Now, what did he just say there? An act that only the death penalty would do. Now listen to what he says next, because he switches gears, because what acts are we talking about? He wasn't actually talking about himself. Because watch what he says next. What I'm saying here is that he's meaning that to apply to other former presidents and other people.
With 400 years in prison for possessing my own presidential papers, which just about every other president has done, is one of the most outrageous and vicious legal theories ever put forward in an American court of law. The Espionage Act has been used to go after traitors and spies. It has nothing to do with a former president legally keeping his own documents. As president, the law that applies to this case is not the Espionage Act, but very simply the Presidential Records Act, which is not even mentioned in this ridiculous 44-page indictment.
Okay, so in part what I kind of want to put out there is what I think is essentially Trump as being the sacrificial lamb to show the people, to wake people up to this two-tiered system, a double standard, right? A law for thee, not for me. And that's essentially what's been going on. But how many of us out here have experienced this already? Lots of us. I bet there's a I don't know, quite a few of you that are watching right now live that this same garbage has happened to you. I know it's happened to me.
Under the Presidential Records Act, which is civil, not criminal,
Oh, wait.
I had every right to have these documents.
What did he say? Civil, not criminal. You really have to pay attention to what he's saying.
The crucial legal precedent is laid out in the most important case ever on this subject, known as the Clinton Socks case.
Okay. Why all of a sudden is he bringing up Clinton? All right, pay attention. Listen to what he says.
You know what that means? After leaving the White House, Bill Clinton kept 79 audio tapes in his sock drawer.
Right.
They included discussions of U.S. military involvement in Haiti, discussions of U.S. foreign policy, both defense and offense, against Cuba, recordings of President Clinton's conversations with all of the many foreign leaders at the time. Think of that. Sensitive facts about trade negotiations taken from presidential briefings, discussions with the Secretary of State about conflict in Bosnia, and much, much more. Very big stuff.
Very big stuff. Yeah. Part of all their plans. Right? That's right. Gee. Clinton. That was right before 9/11.
Not only was Bill Clinton never even considered for criminal prosecution based on the tapes he took, but when he was sued for them, he won the case. Judge Amy Berman Jackson's decision states, under the statutory scheme established by the Presidential Records Act, the decision to segregate personal materials from presidential records is made by the president during.
Oh, wait a minute. Are we saying that, is he saying that under the Presidential's Records Act that it's up to the president to decide what documents are declassified and which ones are not? Absolutely is. So, listen to what he says next. And then the part that he's pointing out here and who this is actually going to affect or backfire on. But really, again, this is about to wake the people up. And like you said, set a case precedence. Well, what that means is if you can do it to him, then we can do it to everybody else. Oh, right. Yeah. That's what this is really all about, is that way the people out there that aren't awake yet, that still have their head buried in the sand, are still brainwashed and indoctrinated to believe that Trump is the bad guy, Orange Man bad, all the woke crap out there, that I don't know if they'll even wake up at all. But this is to go, yeah, let's get Trump, let's get Trump, let's get Trump. And then when the truth comes out and the case gets dismissed and all this gets, thrown to the side, and now when we turn around and use it against them, but well, you were all up in arms about it when it was going against Trump. But now when we turn around and use it against Obama, the Clintons, Biden, the Bushes, I don't want to hear any whining and crying.
During the president's term and in the president's sole discretion. You're surprised to hear that, aren't you?
Sole discretion of the president.
Any normal administration, even an opposing one, would consider that to be the end, but not the corrupt Biden administration. The SOX decision, as it's known, also states, quote, the National Archives and Records Administration, or NARA, does not have the authority to designate material as presidential records. They don't have the authority. NARA does not have the tapes in question, and NARA lacks any right, duty, or means to seize control of them. This is law. The president enjoys unconstrained authority to make decisions regarding the disposal of documents. That's unconstrained to make that decision. Neither the archivist nor Congress has the authority to veto the president's decision. The president...
They don't have the authority to veto the president's authority? Imagine that. Look who he's calling out.
The Presidential Records Act does not confer any mandatory or even discretionary authority on the archivist to classify records. Under the statute, this responsibility is left solely to the President of the United States. Think of that. That's the decision. Think of that. Now, just think of that. In other words, whatever documents a president decides to take with him, he has the right to do so. It's an absolute right. This is the law. And that is something that people have now seen, and it couldn't be more clear. They ought to drop this case immediately because they're destroying the country. And this is why no other president, even those who kept far more documents than I, has ever been even investigated, let alone charged with a crime. Because the sham indictment put forward by the Biden administration included staged photographs of boxes at Mar-a-Lago. Many people have asked me why I had these boxes. Why did you want them? The answer, in addition to having every right under the Presidential Records Act, is that these boxes were containing all types of personal belongings, many, many things, shirts and shoes and everything. As can be seen in the picture where someone, not me, I wonder who it might have been, dumped one of the very neatly arranged boxes all over the floor. They were full of newspapers, press clippings, thousands of pictures, thousands and thousands of White House pictures. the White House photographers, some are with us today. They took.
I wonder what some of those pictures were. Maybe maybe some of the underground tunnels type stuff. Who knows? Trump does.
So many pictures, and we saved all of them, and they were in those boxes. Clothing, memorabilia, and much, much more. I hadn't had a chance to go through all the boxes. It's a long, tedious job, takes a long time, which I was prepared to do, but I have a very busy life. I've had a very busy life. They make it more busy because you're always fighting.
Right?
And under the Sox decision, there seemed to be no rush. I wasn't in a rush because that decision was a law. The other picture that was so vile, you remember that one? It was angry and corrupt, was the photo staged by the FBI. And those that raided Mar-a-Lago, they were putting documents all over the floor. Remember that famous picture? All
Okay.
over, say confidential.
Pay attention to what he just said there about how they're strewing these documents out all over the floor and taking pictures. Remember this tidbit.
Said presidential, said all sorts of things. And it was supposed to be there like it was that way when they raided. It wasn't that way. They put them there, took the picture, and released it illegally to the press. They took my medical records, my passport, my birth certificate, and apologized. They even brought a safecracker. This is a professional safecracker they brought into Mar-a-Lago. And they broke into my safe, and you know what they found? Nothing. There was nothing there. Nothing there. Like zero. According to the Presidential Records Act, which was a big deal, I was supposed to negotiate with NARA, which is exactly what I was doing until Mar-a-Lago was raided by gun-toting FBI agents. I have security tapes of it. I gave them security tapes of everything.
Uh-oh.
In a flagrant violation of the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, which protects the right against unreasonable search and seizure.
Bam. Huh. Kind of seems like the Fourth Amendment might be making a comeback, you know, the common law.
And Sebastian, you covered very well, I must say. Very well. I'm not the one who thinks I'm above the law. I'm the one that followed the law. I'm the only one.
He's the only one that's followed the law.
It's Joe Biden and his corrupt Department of Injustice who think they are above
Department
the law.
of Injustice.
Never before have the two standards of justice in our country been more starkly revealed.
There you go. Two
Joe
standards
Biden
of justice.
had troves of classified documents from his time as vice president and even as a senator, which was completely and totally illegal. In fact, other senators heard about it. Dick Durbin heard about it. You have to see his response. There's no way that's totally illegal. Took him as a senator out of a skiff. They were shocked when they found out. They actually thought it was impossible to do. Biden sent 1,850 boxes to the University of Delaware, making the search very, very difficult for anybody. And he refuses to give them up, and he refuses to let people even look at them. And then they say how he's behaving so nicely. Many of Biden's classified documents were in Chinatown, D.C., Chinatown, which is shocking considering his family receives so much money from China. I wonder how many times the friends of ours from China review those documents. Chinatown, D.C. Others were unsecured at his so-called Penn Biden Center in Washington, which paid Biden approximately $1 million a year. The money supposedly coming from China, and still other classified documents were strewn all over his garage floor, where his now famous Corvette is stored. He's so proud of that car.
Okay, so now he brings up how legitimately there were classified documents strewn all over the floor of Biden's place with his famous Corvette. That's true, right? What they did was staged with Trump That was fake. But this is true.
There was no security, and the door was left open most of the time. It was open. All of those classified documents, all of those documents strewn all over the floor, piled up like junk. Unlike me, who had absolute declassification authority as president, Joe Biden, as vice president, had no authority to declassify and no right to possess the documents. He had no right. Instead of falling under the Presidential Records Act, Biden's actions fell under a much stricter Federal Records Act, which has very, very tough criminal penalties. Yet nothing happens to Crooked Joe. Nothing happened. Have you heard anything about the big search for his documents? No, only me. Most infamously of all, Hillary Clinton set up
Here we go.
an illegal private server in her basement. You never heard this story.
We've never heard
With
this.
the deliberate intention of violating public information laws so she could hide her pay-for-play scandals at the Clinton Foundations or whatever. Hillary stored vast quantities of classified and sensitive information on her illicit server. Some of it happened to leak. It leaked into Anthony Weiner's computer. Remember Anthony Weiner? Into his computer. You don't want to be on his computer.
That was Anthony Weiner,
And all
by the
of
way.
it was illegal because thankfully she was never president. She didn't have the powers to declassify.
Remember Yuma Abedin?
Thank you. She didn't have the powers to declassify. It's a big difference, and neither did Joe.
Uh-oh.
You know, Joe didn't have. Do you mind? Have a drink. It's a little bit cooler than it was, but it's pretty hot out here. Thank you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Great birthday. Nice birthday, isn't it?
Now, there's a comment out here, question, actually, on YouTube. Will Trump now reveal that we've been under a military provisional government, and can he be instantaneously reinstated? Well, this is what we need to fully comprehend here. We don't have a government. Haven't had since 1871. And technically speaking, haven't had a very legitimate government since 1789, the first bankruptcy. So, if we don't have a legitimate government, and it's all been a corporation, there is no president. Now, this goes back to Luther versus Borden and Texas v. White. More specifically, Texas v. White, but Luther versus Borden refers to Article 4, Section 4, to guarantee a republican form of government to protect us from invasion and on application of the legislature or the executive if the legislature cannot be convened for domestic violence. Now, domestic violence, per the Constitution under Article 4, Section 4, is referring to internal insurrection, an attempt to overthrow the government and war against the people. That is what domestic violence is. Domestic being local, and has it not been violent against the people? It most certainly has. It's been to me and many of other people. Okay? And then we get into Texas v. White. Now, this talks about what happened there for the Civil War. And if it was okay to do it then, it's got to be okay to do it now. Which is the president only acting as commander-in-chief. Now, again, this is a totally separate power. So, for example, president would do things like sign off on bills or veto certain bills. Okay, those are presidential powers. Now we're going to talk about commander-in-chief powers. Now, some of these powers are long antecedent to the formation of the Constitution and our government. Okay, some of these powers go clear back to 1553 with the merchant marines, the civil power, because the military is subordinate to the civil power, which is why we have a lot of U.S. Marshals are the ones that are out there making the arrests, because that's the civil power, which the military is subordinate to, not above. And I know there's certain people out there that really have a hard time comprehending this and understanding what it means that the military is subordinate to the civil power. But I'll ask you the question. Why did Trump deputize 20,000 or 40,000 military service members as U.S. Marshals? If they're already in the military and under an oath, well, why would they need to be deputized as U.S. Marshals? Wouldn't that be a lower rank? No. U.S. Marshals is a higher rank than the military. Because, again, the fundamental principle, the military is subordinate to the civil power. The people have all of the power. Not most of it, all of it. And that's the way it's been for a very, very, very long time. We have all the power. The people have all the power. We only delegate certain powers for that well-regulated militia. State and federal military is the well-regulated militia, which is regulated by the people, or supposed to be. So no, technically speaking, we don't have a government. We don't have government de jure. We have a fake government. It is not legitimate. It is de facto, not legitimate. It's a fraud. It's a scheme, scam, and a fraud. It's being taken down. Again, that's the the involuntary bankruptcy that Trump did against the United States Inc. in June of 2020. Okay? And this brings in the Law of War Manual, that section 11.2, that foreign occupied territory, a belligerent occupation, belligerent enemy. That's the reason why that happened January 20th. Why the military came in and put up 3 layers of fencing in D.C. That was to fence them in. Okay? Hope we all understand that this is, again, a military operation per the Law of War Manual. When they subverted, supposedly, the laws of election laws, okay, then that became a belligerent occupation. This whole Biden stuff, right? But there again, the truth is Biden was executed. Again, 3 cannons means funeral, not inauguration. Again, so I'll reiterate the same thing that Derek Johnson talks about. Go look it up. Go do the research. Go look at the difference between Trump's inauguration and Biden's funeral. Okay? So, this is why it's a show right now, because Biden's already been executed. That's an actor we're seeing out there. Many of them have already been arrested and executed. Now, some people don't want to believe that. And, well, when it does come out, I'm going to be telling you I told you so. You don't want to listen now, you're going to be forced to hear the truth. Okay? So, that's what's been in the works. That's what's been going on. And we're going to be we are under martial law. Okay? Have been since essentially 1861 with the Lieber Code. First General Order. Okay? So, we just don't realize it. You know, we haven't been following the common law. We haven't had our common law courts. We haven't had real common law grand juries. We haven't had common law grand juries that have been providing oversight and exercising the powers of the true common law grand jury from the Magna Carta of 1215. It was all subverted. Stripped us of our power. All right, back to Trump. Hope that answers your question out there, Art. Oh yes, it's happy birthday.
Nice birthday. Wonderful birthday. They were saying happy birthday. I was with Eric and Laura, the kids. Happy birthday, Grandpa. Happy. And I said, oh, great. I just got charged with, they want 400 years approximately. If you add them all up, a fake 400 years. Oh, thank you, darling. That's so nice. It's a wonderful birthday. We're going to make it into the greatest birthday of all. We'll make it into the greatest of all. When caught, Hillary then deleted and acid washed. Nobody does that because of the expense, but it's pretty conclusive. 33,000 emails in defiance of a congressional subpoena already launched. The subpoena was
Why is he talking about Hillary Clinton here?
Delete, acid wash, and then smash and destroy her cell phones with a hammer. And then they say, I participated in obstruction? No, think of it. That's called obstruction.
No, that's called obstruction.
Been obstruction as grave as that. She did this in the face of everything, and yet nobody did anything about it. The FBI and the DOJ protected her, did not issue subpoenas, did not use a grand jury, did not execute search warrants, and then the corrupt head of the FBI, James Comey, declared no reasonable prosecutor would bring a case. Can you believe it? And that was just one of many items.
No deep
Hillary
state
Clinton
prosecutor.
broke the law, and she didn't get indicted. Joe Biden broke the law, and in many other ways we're finding out. And so far has
in many other ways that we're finding
indicted. I did everything right, and they indicted me. But, you know, we're serving as a great example. In the case of Bill Clinton's national security advisor, remember that? Sandy Berger. He was caught stealing classified documents from the National Archives, very big ones, very important ones, by stuffing them in his pants. That's pretty. And putting them also in his socks. And he destroyed them and cut the tape with scissors, cut them all up. What Berger did was highly illegal, but he was given nothing, no jail time, nothing happened. There are countless other examples. Bill Clinton, who I happen to like, hard to believe, right? Before I did this, I was actually quite friendly with him. Nice guy. They should have used him a little bit more as an advisor on the 2016 election. He said, you know, you better get to Wisconsin, you're going to lose. No, we're not. You better get to Michigan, you're going to lose. No, we're not. They did. Bill Clinton lost the nuclear codes, and absolutely nothing was done about it. He lost the nuclear codes. The George W. Bush White House lost 22 million emails, a record. NARA cannot assure complete transfer of.
So now he's talking about George W. Bush. See who he's talking about? Okay. This is what this is really about. It's all about going after the really bad people and everybody that's been connected with them worldwide in this New World Order stuff. Okay?
Any of the Bush records. A document shredding truck was spotted on the way to Dick Cheney's house. Can you imagine? Hillary Clinton took hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of furniture, china, flatware, rugs, and more from the White House.
Yeah.
And she wasn't prosecuted. How about that one? She took the furniture and the china. How about if Trump did that? You think Trump would have a little problem? The horrific violations of my rights by crooked Joe Biden's weaponized Department of Injustice are unthinkable. It's unthinkable what's happened. So bad for our country. Democrats all, they lawlessly pierced my attorney-client privilege with lawyers. What they did to lawyers, what they have done to our lawyers, all of our lawyers, they've done things that were absolutely horrible and unthinkable. The leaking has been unbelievable and highly illegal. They leak. We've learned more about, from the Washington Post, New York Times, about the DOJ's Boxes hoax. It's a Boxes hoax. Than from prosecutors themselves. We want to read about it. You pick up the Washington Post, which is not doing well, or you pick up the New York Times. But they'll do better now because of these things. You know, this is the only way they survive, but they'll end up dying. But it's not supposed to be that way. We don't want to learn from the Times. We don't want to learn from leaks. We want to learn from the people we're supposed to learn from. It's like a leaking sieve in Washington. But we learned nothing about the Biden bribery scheme or special counsel Robert Hur's investigation. Robert Hur is doing the Biden investigation. He's a very respected, very nice person. Very nice person. Mine's not such a nice person. Mine's a deranged lunatic, which are many times the magnitude of ours in both number and severity. That's the prosecutor that they gave. He has found nothing. He totally exonerated Mike Pence. I'm happy about that. Mike did nothing wrong, but he happened to have classified documents in his house. But they exonerated him, and Biden is a different story. I mean, so much. You have to really think about what I said. As a senator, he took all of those documents. It's unprecedented. The prosecutor in the case, I will call it our case, is a thug. I've named him Deranged Jack Smith. I wonder what his name used to be, Jack Smith. It sounds so innocent, doesn't it? Jack Smith. What's his name? Jack Smith. He's a very nice man. He's a behind-the-scenes guy, but his record is absolutely atrocious. He does political hit jobs. He's been known to viciously arrest a certain governor. You know the governor, Bob McDonnell of Virginia, and absolutely ruined his life and the life of his family. All these wonderful family members, I knew them, only to have the case overturned 8-0 by the Supreme Court. He destroyed that man and he destroyed that family. And by the way, I will tell you, I'm here and I love you all, and we can take it. But what these thugs have done to my family is a disgrace. I will tell you that. And I say it to all of the fake news, because there's a lot of it back there.
Oh, yeah. Lots of fake
What they
news,
did to my family, and that young man right there, he's answered more subpoenas than any human being in the history of the world. And you know what? They have nothing after all of those subpoenas. Literally thousands of them. Congress, fake counsels, Mueller report, all of this. All he did is answer subpoenas all the time. At least he's become very experienced at that. Congratulations. But Eric is fantastic, and what he and Don and Ivanka and the whole group, that's what they've gone through, and these are serious people. These are serious people. But what he's done to my family, what they have done to my family is horrible. He also tried to railroad John Edwards on a completely bogus legal theory that didn't hold up in court. It's no wonder this raging lunatic was shipped off to The Hague to prosecute war criminals using globalist tribunals, not beholden to the Constitution or the rule of law. Two things Jack Smith clearly disdains. You take a look at this guy. He looks like a thug. But then I watched him make a speech the other day, and he was trembling because it wasn't his territory. He feels much safer in the inner sanctums of the Department of Injustice, where he can be in his room and scream at people. He's a raging and uncontrolled Trump hater, as is his wife, who also happened to be the producer of that Michelle Obama puff piece. It was total puff piece. This is the guy I've got. Don't forget, this persecution is being done by the same weaponized agencies that for 7 years have been running illegal psychological warfare campaigns against the American people, much as if they were trying to destabilize.
Wait. What did he just say there? Just dropped a huge bomb. Let's back that up.
A foreign country. From the Russia, same weaponized agencies that for 7 years have been running illegal psychological warfare campaigns against the American people.
Illegal psychological warfare.
A foreign country. From the Russia hoax to the no collusion Mueller witch hunt to impeachment hoax number 1, impeachment hoax number 2, the 51 lying intelligence offers. How about them? They said it's Russia disinformation, and they knew it wasn't, which made about, according to some of the great pollsters that are right here, made from anywhere from a 10 to 17-point difference. And yet we still got more votes than any sitting president in history in the second election. And we actually did much better in the second election than we did in the first election. The fake dossier, paid for by the Democrats. How about the fake dossier? Remember that one? You think that was easy to go home and say, "Hello, darling, how are you?" when they read about that? It wasn't easy at all. Spying on my campaign. We caught them spying on my campaign. The FBI, Twitter files, and so much more. It's all been a battle of disinformation, one thing after the other, and all to protect the radical left misfits. It's also no coincidence that these charges against me came down the very same day. Evidence revealed Joe Biden took a $5 million bribe from Ukraine. Took a $5 million bribe. But the FBI and the Justice Department don't even want to talk about it. They showed something on television tonight. It had 0 time on the 3 major networks, 0. But my impeachment had almost all the time. I think I had 351 minutes. They had no minutes. Okay? I think a lot of people are going to vote. Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to vote. I will tell you, I just left Miami, and I've never seen love in the streets like that. I've never seen it. We've seen a lot of love.
Now, what did he say there? Oh, it's been, everything about him's been broadcasted out there on the mainstream media. Okay? This is what's going on there, is they're using the same outlets, the same method that was used to brainwash and indoctrinate the people. You know, those of you that have already taken the red pill, you're already awake, at least enough, right? You can see through the BS here. Those of you that willfully took the blue pill, you're willful ignorance. But those that just don't know, that are still, psychologically damaged, I would have to say at this point. But they're using the same method to expose this. And like I was saying in the beginning of this, is that Trump is being the sacrificial lamb to wake the people up. So when this gets turned around and used against Biden, the Clintons, Obama, the Bushes, okay, then there's to be no whining and crying, because you were all for it when it was for Trump. But when it gets applied equally, now you're going to have a problem with it when it comes out that this has all been a setup to begin with, right? This is all just playing out. Okay, those of us that know and listen to what he said there, under the Presidential Records Act, he has every right to declassify. That's the sole power of the president. He declassified all those documents that was in his possession. It was kept as evidence. But then they took other stuff too, personal belongings and photos, and photos of what? But the thing is It's going to bite him in the butt, right? It's going to come back around. So this will all get dismissed, just like the 2 previous attempts of impeachment. All of this is coming back around, and when it gets used against them, they're going to have to accept it, because they were all for it when it was for Trump. But I still think there's going to be quite a few people that believe it's that believe in a 2-tiered system, a double standard, where no, this only needs to apply to Trump because he's orange man bad, and we're woke. When it comes time to tell the truth about Biden, Obama, the Bushes, the Clintons, and all that stuff, and it gets exposed, they're going to have a hard time. And I don't know what's going to happen there. That's the conundrum. So let's continue on just for a few more minutes here.
I've never seen love like that, because they know what we all go through. They know what we've gone through, and they see it, and they're smart. And, many of those people coming from Cuba, Venezuela, other countries, they've seen this happening to their countries. I used to say that the United States, if it keeps going this way, it's going to be Venezuela on steroids. And now we're buying oil from Venezuela. Can you believe it? We have more liquid gold under our feet than any other nation, but we're buying tar from Venezuela, and we're refining it in Houston, the dirtiest, worst oil probably anywhere in the world, and we're refining it. So you can imagine what's going up in the air, and our beautiful stuff we're not taking out of the ground and making a lot of money and paying off debt and reducing taxes still further, which we were in the process of doing. They want to distract from the real espionage and the real crime, so let's use President Trump to do so. Let's go out and let's indict President Trump so they don't talk about the $5 million bribe. Just yesterday, Senator Grassley revealed that the Burisma executive who allegedly paid the bribe reportedly has Crooked Joe on tape. They have 17 tapes, I understand. He must be a nice guy to deal with, right? The guy from Burisma, nice company, they got him and Hunter on 17 different tapes, supposedly. But the FBI isn't showing them. Remember, they impeached me for asking a simple question about Biden's corrupt dealings in Ukraine, and now they see that once again I was right. I was totally right.
Of course he was right. They already had it all.
Joe Biden and the radical left can take foreign bribes and be totally protected. Republicans all, you must finally get tough. You've got to get tough. You got to get tough, and you got to show them. When you arrest your leading political opponent, we no longer have a democracy. When people are allowed to pour through our open borders and our elections are rigged, our country is in very serious trouble. When inflation is allowed to rage, when energy independence and dominance, we had independence and dominance. We were going to be soon very, very dominant. Within 6 months, we're going to dominate the whole world with energy, make a fortune.
Okay. This is one of the big ones right here. Eagle Freedom. Did you catch that one? Listen very carefully, folks. Where we're going to be at in 6 months. And I'll get into that here in a minute.
We had independence and dominance. We were going to be soon very, very dominant. Within 6 months, we're going to dominate the whole world with energy, make a fortune. We were going to be paying off debt and lowering taxes at a level that nobody's ever seen, and they came in and they ended it. But when that's taken away from us...
And then he says they came in and ended that. Okay. So that was in part what was supposed to be going on in my mind with the whole COVID cover-up. In a sense, if you remember, a lot of the courts were shut down. They couldn't hold trials. It was supposed to start happening then, in my mind, from what I understood. But it didn't happen, did it? Because it was much bigger than they thought. It's going to take a little bit more time. So this was all to buy time, in my mind. Now we're getting close to being ready to go time.
When interest rates and taxes spiral upward in an uncontrolled way, when murderers are allowed to roam, murderers, these are horrible killers, murderers are allowed to roam the streets of our Democrat-run cities unchecked, but the incompetent district attorney in New York indicts Trump for a crime that everybody agrees, every pundit, everybody, there is no crime. But murderers go out and nobody ever even comes and knocks on their door, and they know they're there, and they know their rooms, and they know their locations, and they're roaming our cities all over. And some of them are coming in right now through our borders. But then you have a nation that, as we are, is in serious, serious decline. We have a nation in serious decline. If the communists get away with this, it won't stop with me. They will not hesitate to ramp up their persecution of Christians, pro-life activists, parents attending school board meetings, and even future Republican candidates, which they do. We must end it permanently, and we must end it immediately. Now that the seal, so important, is broken, the seal is broken by what they've done. They should never have done this.
They broke the seal.
This was an unwritten rule. You just don't. Unless it's really bad. But you just don't. But the seal is now broken. In addition to closing the border and removing all of the criminal elements that have illegally invaded our country, making America energy independent and even dominant again, and immediately ending the war between Russia and Ukraine. I'll have it ended in 24 hours. I will appoint a real special prosecutor to go after the most corrupt president in the history of the United States of America, Joe Biden, and the entire Biden crime family. Name a special prosecutor. And all others involved with the destruction of our elections, our borders, and our country itself. They're destroying our country. And when I'm reelected, and we will get reelected, we have no choice. We're not going to have a country anymore. I will totally obliterate the deep state. We will obliterate the deep state.
There
And
you
we
go,
know who
folks.
they are. I know exactly
That's what's
who
coming.
they are. They want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. It's very simple. They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. They want you silent. And I am the only one that can save this nation because you know they're not coming after me, they're coming after you, and I just happen to be standing in their way, and I will never be moving.
There you have it, folks.
On November 5th, 2024,
The deep state is going to
will
be taken
done.
down.
We will take back our country, and we will make America great again. Thank you. God bless you all. Thank you. Thank you very much. Great job. Thank you.
All right. So, given all of that, I broke that down a little bit. Now, there might be something going on with all the military movement, but for those that might have been paying attention to somebody like Monkey Works out there on YouTube, okay, he's been showing this stuff, military aircraft, even into watercraft. Okay, they've been going on for quite some time. And I want to remind people that military tribunals do not go through the FBI and the DOJ. Wrong court. Wrong jurisdiction. See, the FBI, the DOJ, that's the deep state. That's all the corporation, government de facto, all the schmew made up by them. By the deep staters. Okay? So a lot of this stuff that's going through military tribunals and Guantanamo Bay and all that stuff has nothing to do with the FBI and the DOJ. I want to reiterate that tidbit that came out here a couple years ago. Well, that's more than a couple years ago now. While Trump was still in and was doing executions. Okay? How is it that the DOJ was trying to stop Trump from doing executions if the executions weren't happening? But see, this goes back to, again, what Attorney General Barr was talking about there. Whether you like him or not is irrelevant. We got to look at the actions and some of the words that they've said. Was that the executive branch was going to start exercising powers that properly belong to the executive branch. And the judicial branch doesn't have a say in it. And what that meant was military tribunals as commander-in-chief, the powers under the executive branch belonging to the commander-in-chief, to give executive orders, to execute the law. That's in part why the Law of War Manual was updated in 2015 and then again in 2016. Why the manual for court martial was amended. Uniform Code of Military Justice. And those particular parts and amendments came effective January 1st, 2019. Okay, this is where he brought back the execution for treason, for serious crimes, right? So that's what's been going on essentially since January 1st, 2019. This was the big scare why they really, really, really wanted to stop Trump, because of that particular part is a key part of all of this, because that brings back the execution, in my mind, death by firing squad. Now, my understanding is they've been given them the option of lethal injection. So, yes, this video is recorded, and for those on Telegram, it's on Rumble and YouTube. And I will share the Rumble link so you folks on Telegram can share that through Telegram. Well, now that Rumble's back to processing the videos rather quickly, I'll get this video shared shortly after the live ends on Telegram. Okay, folks? So, right now, we don't really have a legitimate government. This is all just kind of one heck of a mess, folks. It really is. We're under martial law, have been for a long time, but it's really organized now, and it's coming to a head. That seal is broken, and like Trump said, that's a bad deal. The seal, in my mind, is the indictments, the sealed indictments. So, I'm telling you, folks, my personal opinion, and based on my knowledge, my insight, my research, paying attention, and my contacts, it's coming real soon. And I'll reiterate this again. Get yourself food, water, guns and ammo, whatever you need to survive. Get your propane for your barbecue or propane stoves, whatever you might need for cooking in case the power goes out. Get yourself stocked up at least a couple of weeks worth for you and your whole family, for whatever you have. At a minimum 2 weeks. I know that this has kind of been talked about before for several years now, but you just never know when it's going to happen. Never know when anything's going to happen. May not be particularly this particular part right here. It could be a weather storm. It could be anything that takes out your power and your ability to go anywhere, to buy anything, to do anything. You're going to need to learn how to be self-sufficient for a minimum amount of time until things come back on. It's never a bad idea to be prepared for any kind of natural catastrophe or any planned event. Okay? All right, folks. So hopefully this will wake a little more people up that this is coming. And with everybody with, this heightened awareness and seeing all this military movement that, in my mind, most of that has been happening on a regular basis anyways. People just haven't been paying attention. Now, certain places that I'm curious about is like Chicago with the wheeled, heavily armored vehicles that are actually out on the streets in the downtown Chicago. Well, isn't Chicago one of the most highest crime rates in the nation? Yeah, it's one of the highest 5 points in our nation. So there may be something going on there. Could be busting an underground child pedophilia ring, satanic ritual stuff. Could be something as simple as that. Although that's not simple, but what I'm saying here is that they may be needing that kind of equipment to do that. But in my mind, I don't think that would be done in the middle of the day. Most of these kinds of things would be done in the middle of the night. But I don't know. I could be wrong. I could be right. I could be somewhere in between. I could be a half right. So, be prepared. That's all I'm saying. Again, food, water, clothes, whatever cooking stuff that you need to be able to, barbecue is great. Little cook stoves. If you're not already on gas, which is something that I've recently done, put in a gas stove. Took out the electric stove and put in a gas stove. Now I can cook, so long as we have gas, without power. But I have other ways of doing that to cook as well. So barbecue, propane, all sorts of different firewood, that kind of good stuff. So thank you all. Yeah. I appreciate all your kind comments. Thank you for the likes, follows, and shares. Share. Share the knowledge. And much love to everybody out here that is following and sharing. And thank you to you prayer warriors out there for your prayers for everybody, not just for myself, but want to thank those that are directly praying for me, for my safety and well-being. Yeah. Yeah, I've been working outside and around the house and the yards and on the other houses as well. So, yeah, I've been out in the sun a little bit. Actually, kind of burnt the top of my foot from wearing sandals the other day. It's feeling better today. So, but yeah, any kind of donations or anything like that, you can send over to the office there, 6477 West Fairview Avenue, Boise, Idaho, 83704. Otherwise, you can get on my Patreon. Go to kirkslawcorner.com. Go to the Patreon, and if you'd like to, tier 1, tier 2, just to help donate $5, $10 a month. That's what tier 1 and tier 2 is about. Just $5 or $10 a month to help support a cup of coffee or whatever, Tier 3 and 4 will get you into the Wednesday night workshops, which is private Zoom meetings. And for those in tier 4 that want the one-on-one stuff, 1 hour one-on-one, that's tier 4, is done through Zoom as well, through Patreon. And I want to reiterate that it's everything regarding Patreon goes through Patreon only. I don't typically respond to anything through Facebook or Telegram or what have you. So any communication regarding Patreon goes through Patreon, please. All right, and make sure you read the posts there about setting up the one-on-ones through Calendly. That's how you set up the one-on-ones. You go register there, and then send me a private message through Patreon confirming that. All right, folks, have a wonderful night, and happy Father's Day to those out there from this weekend for you fathers out there with your sons, missing your sons. Much love, everybody. God bless, and have a wonderful night, and we'll see you, for those who've done Patreon Wednesday Night Workshop, we'll see you Wednesday. Thursday night is the National Assembly call. Okay, make sure you're on there if you want to get serious about this and claim our power and take back our republic. Again, right now it's all in limbo. We don't really have a legitimate government. We're under martial law, whether people realize that or not. That's just the way it is. Okay? So, much love, everybody. Have a wonderful night.